All right, here we have the final chapter of this week's Torah reading, Chukat. And we learned about the Paraduma, we learned about the death of Miriam, how Moses struck the rock, the death of Aaron. And how the Canaani attacked. And then we learned yesterday about the war that they made with Ammon and Moab. But the mountains came together and the song that they sang. So today we're going to learn about the war that Israel is going to make with the Emori. It's going to be very interesting over here. And the point is going to be that there's going to be a whole song even about this. That God told Moses not to make a war against Moab. Al Tatzor al Moab. So what happened is that Sichon, he conquered the city of Moab. And so it didn't really sort of belong to Moab anymore. And that gave Israel the permission to conquer it. So then after the conquering, they made a big song about it. So let's go further and let's just see what this is. Let's see the details. Especially, we'll mostly concentrate on Rashi today because I would like to also try to do the that's a nice picture. I would like to try to do, you should know that this is the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai happens to be that he was my wife's father. Right? My wife had a father, so my wife's father, her parents are from Baghdad. They came here in Israel like in the early 1900s. And but his father, her father's family are totally not religious. A lot of Iraqi Jews are really not, they're really, how do you say, opposed, at least in an external way, to Judaism. They were very heavily influenced by the English. But there was a great tzaddik there, and his name was Chacham Yosef Chaim. He passed away like about 100 years ago, and he was also a mohel, and they said that anybody that he was the mohel of would remain religious in Iraq. The Iraqi Jews are very usually intellectual people. They love intellect. They love to question it. Anyway, my wife's father, the Ben Ish Chai, here he is. He was his sandak. I think it was also his mohel, but in any case, it was a sandak, and he remained religious. And all the rest of his family, they're just totally, I mean, everybody's going to come back, but until then. So it's a beautiful picture. I read a lot of books of this. He wrote a tremendous amount on Nigla, on Kabbalah, and everything. Very amazing person. Okay. Ben Ish Chai, nice picture. So let's go. Vayishlach Israel sent malachim, shalom, sent messengers. The word malach also means an angel, but this doesn't like one of these. So it says he sent messengers. Yeah. To Sichon, the king of the Amorites. And he's saying, and he said to the king of the Amorites, let us go through your land. We'll say, let me go through your land. I won't go through the fields. I won't go through the vineyards. I won't drink any water of yours. In other words, I'll buy everything that I go through, etc., like it was before with Edom. So it says, here we go. This is a very interesting Rashi. Listen to this carefully. Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim. That Israel sent, the Jewish people, they sent these messengers to Edom. But in another place, says Rashi, it says that it was Moses that sent. Shenemar by Ashlech Malachim Midbar Kademot. It says in the book of Deuteronomy that book of Deuteronomy is Moses is repeating the Torah. It's called Mishnah Torah. Moses is repeating things that happened before, even though there's a lot of new things there, but that's what it's called, Mishnah. This is all Moses speaking. And over there, when Moses relates the story, he says that I sent these messengers. Here it says the Jews sent. And Moses said, I sent. Ma'yishlach Moshe Malachim Mikadesh to the king of Edom. And in Yiftach, which that's the Haftora, Yiftach was one of the judges of the Jewish people, and he also made a war later on with the same with Edom. It says in Yiftach, it says Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim. It says that the Jews said so. In Yiftach, he relates the same story, and he doesn't say what Moses said later on. Moses said, "I sent," and here it says that the Jews sent, and Yiftach, one of the judges, the Shoftim, when he says he tells this whole story over to Edom, he said that it was the Jews sent. So who sent? It says, well, really the fact of the matter is that both of them are true. One closes and the other one opens. What does that mean? I mean, who sent these messages? It was Moses or it was the Jewish people? Maybe it's not so important, huh? I don't really care who sent it. It was Moses or the Jewish people. Says Rashi, it is tremendously important that they're saying the same exact thing. Moses is the Jewish people, and the Jewish people, they are Moses. That the leader of the generation, who could call Ador, is like the entire generation. The leader is everything. The leader is everything. The Rebbe used this many, many times to talk about his father-in-law, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Nasi is everything. In other words, the fact that the previous Rebbe went to prison and that he suffered and he got out, that was like all the people went in. Not just all the Hasidic Chabad, but all of the Jews. Okay. So here's what Moses, he sends to the king of the Amorites, and he says, let me go through your land. I'm not going to make any trouble. Even though there was no commandment to give them an offering of peace. But nevertheless, Moses took it on himself to ask for peace. It says, Evor Ba'artzecha says, I will go through your land, says the Balator, not like it said by Edom. Remember it said, by Edom, lo ratza paisu kokach, v'lo shalach lo ela kadei liftoach bo b'shalom. Over there, he just sent, but Edom, he really wanted to make peace. But here, not so much. Alkein, therefore, lo hishiv lo tshuva, kamosho osomel Edom. Therefore, he didn't make over here a reply like the king of Edom. By Edom, he wanted to make peace with him. So Moses said, we'll go through, we'll buy everything from you, we won't need anything of our own, and etc. And the king of Edom said, no way. But here, lo natan the Sichon over Gbulo. It says the Sichon here, not like the king of Edom, that the Jews tried to be friendly with him, which this says that in the end, that's why Aaron died early. Remember we learned that? Because he tried to make friends with Edom. Aaron was going to die anyway before they came to the land of Israel, but they didn't have to die so soon. So, Sichon did not allow the Jews to go through his land, and Sichon gathered all of his people, and he went out to war. At least by Edom, Edom answered back and said, no way, I'm not going to let you go through, but if you go through, I'll make a war with you, and etc. So Sichon, he gathers people together and he makes a war, which is going to be his undoing. And he made a war against the Jewish people. So it says, why didn't he make a war? Let's do Rashi. Because Sichon came out and he made a war against the Jews. The Jews just said, let me go through your land, right? Emori, I'll go through the land and, and it'll be okay, right? So Sichon doesn't even give him an answer back. He just comes out and makes a war. Why? Lefisha kol malchi Canaan, all of the kings of the land of, which was going to be the land of Israel, Canaan, hayu malim lomas, they were paying him protection money. Sichon. Shoya Shomram, that Sichon, he was a big fighter. He was the mafia man. He had the strongest warriors and everything like that. and they had to pay him protection money. Shalo yavru aleim gaisot. That he said, okay, I'll protect you that no other armies will come and do you any harm. Kivich Amru Yisrael, when the Jewish people said, I'm going to go through, let me go through the land, right? I want to go through your land. Omer Lahem, he said, call out to me, my whole life is devoted. Any Yoshev Khan, Ella, L'Shamro Mifnei. The whole reason that I'm here, I'm devoted, is just to keep you away from Canaan. And now you're coming to me and saying, please let me go through. That's the whole reason I'm here. It's like going up to a guard in the bank and say, listen, will you do me a favor? I mean, you look like a nice guy. Let me rob the bank. Let me go and rob the bank. And okay, what do you say? Sichon says, I'm not. You're asking me to let you go into the land of Israel? No way. They're paying me for protection. The Yitzhak, so he went out against Israel. It says if Sichon was the king of Cheshbon, right? If it says that Cheshbon was just a country that was filled with mosquitoes and called Bria Yochel Lichvosh, no one could conquer it. It was a very hard land, very, very difficult. And even it would probably grow mosquitoes that would be so troublesome, no one would be able to overcome them. And if Sichon lived in a weak country, and nobody could beat him. Sichon was like super powerful. How much more when this King Sichon, which is a strong, powerful king, he's in Cheshbon, which is a strong, powerful country. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, God said, Ma ani matriach al bani kol zot, l'tzurat kol ir b'ir. Why should I make trouble for the Jewish people, my children, that they're going to have to go from city to city and conquer each one? Not to believe kol anshei milchama. So all of a sudden he put, in those days they didn't have the internet or anything. Suddenly everybody got the idea that let's go out and fight. Let's say, everyone said we're going to go from our cities and let's fight all of them together against Israel. For sure we'll win. Mishamochu Yisrael, it says, Yitkabtzu kulam, all of them gathered together to one place, Visham naflu, and they lost. So now all of the strong men in every city, they came out to join the cause of Sichon to destroy the Jews, and they all gathered together, which was very convenient for the Jewish people. They just destroyed them all. And from then, the Jews just could go into every single city. The Ein bin Negdon, and they didn't have it, there was no opposition. Ki Ein Shom Ish Ella Nashim V'Taf. The only ones that were left behind were just the women and the children. Vayaku Yisrael Aficharav, the Jewish people, the Jews, Israel, they smote them with the edge of the sword. And they inherited their land. They took over the land. Arnon until Yabok, until Bnei Ammon, because the border of Ammon was very powerful. The border of Ammon was very powerful. What was powerful? They just defeated the strongest king in the whole area. It says everybody was afraid of him. He was punished. He was protecting everybody. Sichon, the strongest. And but the Israelis, they stopped at the border of Ammon. Why? Because it was strong. What was it strong? It says Rashi, what was it so strong? This border of Ammon. The God warned Moses, he said, don't make a siege against them. Don't war, so they couldn't go through. The Dat Zakanim, he says that it came from Yabok until Bnei Ammon. He says, what is this Yabok? Yabok is this river. Like it says, V'yavar Mavar Yabok. This was what Jacob, before he fought the battle with the angel, it says he came back over this river Yabok to get some small things that he left behind. Just like Sichon, he conquered this land of Moab until the place of Arnon. So also he conquered the land of Ammon also to this place of Yabok. And this river, this Yabok, was divided between them. Okay, well, we're going to see it's very, very important that Sichon conquers Moab. We're going to see. So here it goes. Sichon conquered all these lands. They fought against them. They conquered everything. Defeated Sichon, all the people. Vayikach Israel, the Jewish people took all these cities and they dwelled in them. This is before they went into the land of Israel, right? They haven't passed over yet. And the Jewish people dwelled in all the cities of the Amori and in Heshbon and in all Benotel and all of the surrounding little cities. It says the Kfarim Asmuchim Lo, the cities which are nearby. Ki Heshbon here Sichon, because Heshbon was this conquered by, we said that Heshbon was very powerful, right? So it said the Heshbon was the city of Sichon, was this powerful king. Melech Amori. He was the king of the Amorites. He conquered the Amorites. And he fought against the king of Moab, the first king of Moab. Now, who was the second king of Moab? It says, right? It says Balak b'nei Ammon, Balak b'nei Moab. Balak Melech Moab, I'm sorry. He was the king of Moab. How did Balak become the king of Moab? He hired Bilam to curse. Let's look and see. It says, he fought in the first king of Moab. And Sichon took over his land from his hand, from him until Yabok. So he fought. Lama hutzrach akatuv likotev. Why do you have to, what do we have to even know about this for? What do we care? I mean, the Torah, it's true, it's a history book, but that's not what it's devoted to tell us every little detail of history. You know, what it says in the Torah is historically correct. But it doesn't have to tell you every little insignificant detail. It says, well, this is not insignificant. There's a commandment that it says, God commanded the Jews, al tetzor al Moab. The Jews are not allowed to make a war against Moab. The Heshbon, Mishal Moab, and the city of Heshbon was a part of Moab. Katav Lanu, so it tells us that Sichon, he conquered them. Lok Chamiyem. And by means of this, so the Jews could say, okay, I'm not conquering Moab, I'm just conquering Sichon. It happens to be that this is what he owes. I'm not making a war against Moab. And they took it from Miyado, from his hand, Mirishutoto, from his possession. So Sichon took from the first king of Moab, he took the land, and that enabled the Jewish people to take it from him. The Jewish people couldn't take it from the first king of Moab. God told him not to, but now that Sichon took it over, so the Jews said, we're not taking over Moab, we're just taking over Sichon and anything that it happens to be that he owns. It says, Heshbon was the city of Sichon, the king of the Amori. And it says all the cities of the Amori, they were subservient to the Sichon, to Heshbon, I'm sorry, because Heshbon was the royal city of Sichon. And the Jews beat him, right? The Jews in Sichon. Alken Yomar Muslim, therefore what do you want to say? The Muslim, the singers, the songwriters. And we're going to see that's going to be Bilam. Listen to the little song. Bo Cheshbon, Sichon. Here we go. Listen to this. Alken, therefore, Al Oto Milchama, on this war that Sichon defeated Moab in order that the Jews would be able to conquer Moab, because it now belongs to Sichon, so they just conquered it. Yomra Moslim, who's the Moslim? Was Bilam. Bilam, it says, Vayisam Moshalo. We're going to get to this soon. Bilam is a really super evil, disgusting person, really low life. No bad news. People, it says he was married to his donkey, and he knew how to curse people, and he knew how to. Surprisingly enough, in the history of Judaism, God gives success to evil people. God gives a lot of success to evil people. I was just reading. Anyway, let's not go further. We can see it. It's not such a big novelty, but it's pretty amazing. So Bilam, he was like a big poet, and he had the power to curse anybody, and certainly could curse the Jews. He could certainly curse the Jews. There was no, No way about it. They were smaller than these other countries that he had cursed, and and the Jews were not a nation of warriors. You know, they came out of Egypt, and all these countries that they conquered, these people had like been, you know, practicing warfare since they were like 1 year old, and they were vastly outnumbered. Right, the Jews were vastly outnumbered, but nevertheless, it was a Bilam. He also sang songs, and interestingly enough, we're going to see that Bilam has the most clear and beautiful prophecies about Mashiach. Bilam, he's got the most exact and promising prophecies about Mashiach in the whole Torah, in the written Torah for sure. The Rambam even brings Bilam as a proof. He brings him as a proof. We just finished learning it. We just finished the Rambam, learning all the 14 books of the Rambam. Chabad, we finished the whole cycle. We just finished. The Rambam brings Bilam as a proof Mashiach is going to come, and that King David was the first Mashiach, and that Mashiach ben David is going to be the last. So it says that he's the Moshe. Bilam, who is the one that said the Bilam and Beor? And they were the ones that said, Bo Cheshbon, come to Cheshbon. Shalo ayah Sichon yochol lekavsho, because Sichon was not able to conquer the city of Cheshbon, the city of the Amorrees. V'halach v'sachar Bilam, that Sichon rented out Bilam's services to curse it. And then what he did, so he cursed the Amorrees, and Sichon took him over. That's what it says about Balak. Balak ki yadati v'tasher tavorech mevorach. Balak said, I know that whoever you curse, you can curse. Because Bilam already did it. He cursed for Sichon, so that Sichon got all of his victories. Cheshbon was now owned by Sichon, and it became his city. Because a fire comes from the city of Cheshbon, a flame from Kiryat Sichon, from the city of Sichon, this king, right? Achla or Moav Baale Bamot Arnon. What does it mean? It ate up the city of Or, which is in Moab. And let's see what this means. Here we go. Ki Cheshbon. What does it mean? Misha Kavsha. As soon as Sichon conquered Cheshbon, which is the capital of the Amorrees, right? And then after that, it ate up Moab. The name of that country was called Or. It says of Achla Or of Moab. That was called Or. That was the name of it. Lichayet Belashan Arami. In the Lashon Aramaic, it's called Lichyet. Okay. Until Moab, this is the city of Moab. So Sichon is conquering all these places because of his power, and then the Jews conquer him. So it says, Das Zakenim, it says that after the Sichon defeated Cheshbon, which is the and then he fought with all the other cities, which are Ar and Onan, etc. And he got them. Then it says a fire came out from Cheshbon. And what? Then when he was secure, it says he had a huge army, and they they called the city Kiryat Sichon. Now everyone was afraid. And from his place, after he conquered this Cheshbon, then there came fire, and he conquered the city of Moab. Okay, let's go further. Oy lecha Moab, woe to you, Moab, avadata, you're lost. Am Kamosh, a land which is the land of Kamosh. Who's Kamosh? Kamosh is a god. It's an idolatry. It says, woe to you, Moab, that Moab was cursed, that Bilam cursed Moab, that it would be put, because Bilam is singing the song, right? Bilam is singing the song, that I cursed it so that it would be put into the hands of Sichon, and I knocked down Kamosh. This is the name of the god of Moab. and then Natan, and I also gave over the sons, the people who lived in Moab, I gave them also over and they're all running away. Nasan, Banosav, Bishivia. I'm sorry, Nasan, he made their children, the people who lived in Moab, Platim, that they were all refugees. Ubanotov, and the daughters, he took into slavery to the king of the Amorites, who is Sichon. Vaniram Avad. There was also kings, rulers over there. They got lost, and Cheshbon took them over. This was again the city of this, until Divon, Venashim, and he ruined until Nofach, other places, etc. These are other places that he ruined. He's singing about how great Vayashav Yisrael be'eretz Amori, and then after the Jews, that's the end of the song. Bilam is praising himself, how great Bilam is, that he cursed he did all these cursing for Sichon, so Sichon could conquer all these places. Any case, Israel in the end, they conquered Sichon, and Israel dwelled in the land of the Amorites. So from all this, it explains, says the Sofrono, that even though that Israel did conquer Sichon, but Jews, they did not yet dwell in the land of Moab, but instead they stood in the land of the Amori. Like it says, like Yiftach. We're going to get to Yiftach in a moment. I hope we'll have the time. Lo lekach Yisrael et eretz Moab, it says Bnei Ammon. We'll see. We're going to the story of Yiftach. Okay, one more battle. Now they have to fight against Og, Melech HaBashan. Vayishlach Moshe l'Ragel, Moses sent to spy out this place of Yazer, and he conquered it. He conquered all the cities over there, and he took over the Amori. There were some of the Amoris that fled, and they were living over there. He took them over also. Moses sent more spies. Oh, didn't we have enough trouble with the spies that he sent before? It says, no, these spies, they themselves conquered the land. These were not like the first spies that Moses sent and they came back to tell the people how to conquer the land. Moses here sent spies and they themselves took over the land. They said, Lo Nasa, we're not going to do like the first ones did. But we're certain in the prayer of Moshe and we will fight. So these spies, it doesn't say how many sent, but I'm sure he didn't send that money. And nonetheless, they conquered all the cities. But Yifnu v'yalu derech HaBashan, then they went derech HaBashan, and who came out? Og, the king of Bashan, to meet them. He and all of his people to make a war in this place called Edrei. And God said to Moshe, "Don't be afraid." Now Og was huge. It said he was one of the people that was saved from the flood. Right, the flood. So that was, a long time ago. The flood was like 1,600, something like that, years after the creation of the world, the flood. And here we have, this is already 3,300 years after. So it says that he, in those 3,300 years, that means that Og was at that time more than 1,600 years old, which is pretty old. That's pretty old. But nevertheless, he was, if he lived that long, so he must have some sort of powers, and he did. He was tremendously powerful, very awesome. And God said, don't be afraid of him. Also, he had an army. I've put him into your hands, and you and all of his people and his land. And you'll do to them what you did to Sichon, just like he lives in, that was in Cheshbon. Rashi, God said, don't be afraid of him. Moshe was afraid to fight against Og. Why? Because the man was like at least 1,600 years old, because Og had merits. What merits did Og have? He had the merit from Abraham. It says, V'yavo palit. It says that when Lot was taken prisoner, Lot was like Abraham's, what is his cousin, when he was taken prisoner, Lot. So someone came and told Abraham that Lot had been taken prisoner in Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham went and he saved Lot. Made a big war. Who was this person that came and saw? It says the Palit came, the refugee. Who was the refuge? It was Og, that he was one of the leftovers from the Rephoim, from these angels, whatever they were. No, from they were in the war from Kedar Laomer and etc. Other places say that Og, he remained from the Yeter Rephoim. He remained from these battles that occurred right before Abraham. But some people say that Og was left from the time of the flood. In any case, the flood was way before, but Abraham, let's say if it came from Abraham, so Abraham was like 500 years before this story happened, that the Jews took over the land of Israel. So nevertheless, he was afraid because he had merit. He had merits. Okay. A lot of explanations. Anyway, the Jews won. They beat Og. They didn't leave anybody over, and they took over his land. Moshe killed him. It says that Moshe himself killed Og. It says that Og was like, I forget what it was. It was like 30 feet high or 300 feet high, something like that. And Moses jumped up. He had this sword that was like 15 feet long, and Moses jumped up 15 and he hit Og on his ankle, like it says in the Gemara, Bebrachos Beharoa, in the Gemara and Brachos. Akartura mean Talta Parsi. He said that Og lifted up. There's different opinions also of this. Is that Og lifted up a mountain that was huge, and the mountain fell on his ground on him, and his teeth grew out, and he got stuck there. In any case, whatever it was, Moses himself killed him. And the Jewish people went to Arvos Moab. Now, Arvos Moab, that's like on the other side. Moab, they were in Moab. They took over Moab, and they settled in Arvos Moab, which is on the other side of Yarden Yerecho, which is on the other side of the Jordan River. And Jericho was on the other side. Jericho is going to be the first place that they're going to conquer by means of Joshua. That's what's going to be. So basically, this ends the journeys of the Jewish people in the desert. Let's go, if we can, God willing, I hope this works, and let us learn. Does this work? Yes, it does. All right. We're going to learn about Yiftach. Yiftach HaGiladi. Okay, when the Jews entered the land of Israel, so they entered with Joshua. And Joshua was a tremendous leader, a very, very capable leader. And he led the Jewish people and won all their battles and settled them down. But nevertheless, the Jewish people, okay, so we're going to go over time. So in any case, what's the story of the judges? There were 13 judges altogether, because the Shoftim. Why were they called the judges? They were called the judges because maybe a better word for it would be the deciders. There was 13 like leaders that they decided what the Jewish people were going to do. And one of their main things was making war. Making war. Why? Because the story repeated itself 13 times. This is like 300, from the time the Jews came into the land of Israel until they built the first temple was 440 years. But some of that 440 years was only 315 years of that time were these shoftim, these judges. The last of the judges was Samson. Everybody knows the story of Samson. A lot of people know the story of Gideon, right? Gideon, maybe not. First of them was a man called Othniel. He was the one that took over from Joshua. And of course, you ever heard the story of Devorah? She was like the advisor, something like. So all these people ruled, and it was the same story over and over again. the non-Jews, the police team or whoever is, they would make trouble for the Jews, and or the foreign powers, they would conquer them and make troubles, and with Nachash and all these things. And the Jews would cry out to God, help us. And God would send them some person that would be a great warrior or whatever, and he would conquer the enemies, and the Jewish people would do tshuva for a while. And then as soon as things got like calm again, then they would go back to serving idols. Because you have to remember, the Jews were like vastly outnumbered. And the non-Jews were also successful. So the Jews would worship idols. And they had little idols in their houses and in the backyard. And, a little idol 5 minutes a week, 5 minutes a day. Idols, they worshiped idols. And as soon as they did that, then the enemies attacked. And then they prayed to God. And then God sent a leader. And the leader defeated the enemies. And the Jewish people said, oh, we're not going to do that again. And that lasted for a few years. And then the whole thing repeated itself over and over. The ninth of these leaders was a person called Yiftach. That was his name, Yiftach. Yiftach HaGiladi. So let's just we'll try to translate this, because there's a lot. It's a pretty long, not that long, but Haftora. So Yiftach HaGiladi, he was a very powerful warrior, and he was the son of a woman that was a prostitute. Now, she was not a prostitute. The fact that she was not a prostitute, but what was he? He was born in the time when you were not allowed to marry somebody from another tribe. In other words, people from Benjamin, a man from the tribe of Benjamin, he could only marry a woman from Benjamin. That married, but you could take what was called a concubine, wherever they called a pilegish, which was without a marriage certificate. They would do the whole process and get married, but he wasn't like 100%. So he took a lady from another tribe. And because of that, his brothers, they didn't like him, because he said, you don't really have a portion in our inheritance, and you're not 100%. And from our you're not made of the same stuff we are. Anyway, he was the one of the strange woman, and Gilad, Yiftach was born from this man called Gilad. Yiftach was the one whose mother was. So Vatelech Eshes Gilad. So Gilad gave birth to some. She had other wives. Gilad had other wives. They were really legitimate, 100% wives from the same tribe, and she gave birth. His wife gave birth to a bunch of sons, and he came from this concubine, and they grew up. In any case, they evicted Yiftach, and they said, "You're not going to get an inheritance for us because you're from a woman from a different tribe." So Yiftach ran away from his brothers, and he lived in a place called Tov. Some people say the leader of the place was called Tov. Anyway, they gathered around Yiftach, all these empty people, and they would go out with him and do all sorts of things. Well, the days passed, and Ammon, the nation of Ammon, came and they made a war with Israel. And when they fought with Israel, and the elders of Gilad, that's this place where he came from, and the Jews were losing. So they said, let's go to Yiftach from Erech To'od. Let's bring him. Yiftach, he was a strong guy. He was a good fighter. And we don't have anybody like him. Let him take over the troops. And so they said to Yiftach, listen, come back with us and be a leader for us and make the fight against Ammon. I mean, Ammon has this huge army. He's going to destroy all the Jewish people. We're losing. So Yiftach said, listen, I know you guys. I know who you are. You hated me. You kicked me out. You kicked me out from my father's house. And at least you were quiet. You were complicit. Why all of a sudden you're coming to me? Now I'm your best friend, right? Whenever it's bad for you, then you come to me. So the elders of Gilad, they came to said to Yiftach, listen, therefore now we came to you with an offer. We were coming with you. We fight against the Bnei Ammon, and you'll be a head for us, for all the people of Gilad. Says Yiftach, oh yeah? So listen, if you bring me back to fight against Ammon and I succeed, then I want to be the head forever. I'm going to be the head. Okay, and they said, Yiftach, God will, he heard between us. He is our witness. Whatever you said, that's what we'll do. You win, you get the whole jackpot. The whole thing belongs to you. Yiftach went with the elders of Gilad, and the people made him to be a head and a leader. And Yiftach said, okay, Yidaber Yiftach, I'll call all these words in front of God in a place called Mitzpah. Now, Yiftach now takes the lead and he sends messengers, right? Remember, that's what we learned in the Torah portion. He sent messengers to the king of Ammon, and he says, listen, we haven't got anything to do with anything. Me and you have no argument, right? Why all of you are you attacking me? What's going on? Why are you attacking the Jews? Why are you coming to make a war with my land? The king of Ammon sent message back with the messengers of Yiftach, and he said, the Jews, you took my land when you went up from Egypt. You took the land from Arnon, from the Arnon to Liabok, right? That's what we just finished learning, how the Jews conquered all these lands. And you took the Jordan, and now you want me to leave you alone in peace. And Yiftach sent another group of messengers, and he said to the king, and he said to him, listen, this is what the messenger said. This is what Yiftach says. You're mad because we took your land. We didn't take your land. We didn't take the land of Moab. We didn't take the land of Ammon. Because when we came out of Egypt, the Jewish people went in the desert, and we went to a place called Kadesha. And back then, the Jews sent also messengers to the land Edom and said, let us go through your land. And the king of Edom, he wouldn't allow us to go through his land. And also we asked the king of Moab, right? Let us go through your land. The king of Moab also wouldn't let us. So the Jewish people, we had to live in a place called Kadesh. And we went in the desert, and we surrounded the land of Edom, and we made a big detour around the land of Moab. And we came to this place called Mizrach Shemesh on the other side of Moab. And we camped out in a place called Arnon. And we didn't come even to the borders of Moab. Arnon, all we did is come to the borders of Moab, because this Arnon is on the borders of Moab. And back then also, we sent messengers to Sichon, the king of the Amori, and he ruled over this place called Heshbon. And we Jews said to him, let us go through your land to our place. And also, Sichon also didn't let us go. He wouldn't let us go through the land. And Sichon got a whole big army together, and they made a war against us. And God made us defeat Sichon, right? We didn't defeat Moab, and we didn't defeat these other lands. Sichon did, and we defeated him, Biyad Yisrael. And therefore, the Jews, we took over the land of the Amori, and we lived there. And we took over the boundaries of the Amori to this place called Amok, and etc. And now, God, the God of Israel, he gave us this land of the Amori for the Jewish people, and we're taking it over. Isn't Halo et asher yirashtcha, that what you took over, Kamosh, that's your God. Kamosh is your God. Remember we said that before? And everything that God gave to us is we only took over what God gave over to us. And now, listen, are you any better than Balak ben Sipor? We're going to get to this soon. You have to realize this is what Yiftach is sending to him. This is like 200 years, something like that, after the story with that we just finished learning. Over here, how we took over, conquered Sichon. They said we're going to learn like another next week about Balak. What happened with Balak? Okay, so Balak, you think you're better than him? He was the king of Moab. He made a war against the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were living in Heshbon that we took over, and all the cities that were there, 300 cities, etc. And I didn't do anything to you, right? Anybody who fights against us, we beat. That's all. let God judge between us today. And nevertheless, the king of Moab, he didn't listen to this whole Haftora and the whole Maisa. He said, forget it, and let's make a war. And Yiftach all of a sudden came upon him the Spirit of God, and he went to Gilad and Manasseh. He gathered all the Jewish people together, and Vayidor Yiftach, and he gathered all the war. And he says, "Now we're going to make a war against against our enemies." And he made a vow, and he said, "Well, if I win, whatever the first thing that comes out of it's pretty stupid. I mean, he wasn't that smart of a person, obviously. If he said, whoever the first thing that comes out of my door, I am going to devote it to God. Whatever comes out of my house, this, when I come back, if I come back in peace, and by defeating this Ammon, the people of Ammon, I'm going to give it to God forever." Okay, anyway, he wins the battle. He wins the battle. God puts it in his hands. He defeats them from Aror until Boacha, and he put the 20 cities were all his, and he won. And Yiftach came from another place, from Mitzpah. He came to his house, and who is the first thing that comes out of his house? It would be nice if there came a cow from his house or something like that. Who has cows in the house? I don't know what he was talking. I don't know what he was thinking when he made this vow. But who comes out? His daughter. She's so happy to see him. Daddy, she comes out with the tambourines and then whatever it is and drums. She's the only one that came out. Nobody else. There was nobody else in the house. As soon as he saw her, so he tore his garments and he said, "Oh, you're my son, my daughter. I promised that you would sit in forever. I'm going to give you over to God." And that's what it was. She had to be until the end. Then she returned to her father, and he had to fulfill his vow. And from all the girls would always go to visit her, etc., in her sad state, unmarried state. All right, what is exactly the point of the end of this? I really didn't look, to tell you the truth. I didn't have time to look it up. Very bizarre story, but nevertheless, why do we have this Haftorah? First of all, to tell us that it's connected. This is like the finishing touch of the conquering of the lands that were conquered previously by Moshe before the Jews went into the land of Israel. And this is the finishing of the conquering after the Jews entered the land of Israel. Okay, my friends, have a good day. This is the Haftorah for this week, right? You can look it up, maybe look it up yourself and try to find the reason why he made such a strange vow. I once looked around and I didn't find it, but I didn't look that, how do you say that exactly? Good. Have a good day. I hope that I'll see you tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning, and we'll finish this beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe from Devar Malchut. Shalom uvracha with Mashiach now.